briefly what brings you to this workshop? What are you hoping to get from this, or what are you curious about? Um, and I like to keep it brief so that we don't have a lot of time. And I'll just go around the room as I see it. So we'll start with Annie because you're next to my.
Uh,
Oh, you're muted, Annie.
I mean, I'm Annie. I'm in Port Townsend, and I consider myself a cross-species communicator. And I have learned so much from trees, and I'm intrigued by what you're doing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Annie. Jeff,
You asked me, Kevin?
you're next. Yeah.
Okay. Past friend of Kevin and Jan's in the men's group for quite a while. So I've known Kevin and just what he's done historically. So I'm curious. I have some huge trees on my street that I appreciate walking by and just want to be open to all that there is input in my life from wonderful sources, long living sources.
Mm. And where are you from, Jeff?
I'm here in Seattle,
Sam.
downtown.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Amita, and you're muted.
Forgive me. I was distracted. I apologize. Hi, I'm Evita. Um, I am today. I am in Miami at the Fontainebleau. My partner and I are actually nomadic, and we travel the entire country as a full time occupation, so to speak. But today we're in Miami, and forgive me, that's some of the background. And I am a fairy human hybrid, and connect with the trees and have connected with the trees my entire life. Have a deep, deep connection with the earth and nature, and so I'm just really excited to be here and expand my awareness.
Mm. Thank you, Amita.
Thank you.
Penny Thorpe.
Hi, I'm Penny. I'm in Puyallup via San Mateo. Kevin, I think I know you from San Mateo, but I'm not sure.
Mm.
I have been very attracted to trees my whole life, and there is occasional communication, and I want to do more, and I want to know what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Penny. Jay.
I am Jay. I'm in Portland, and I think one of the things I love most about Portland are the trees. I think that's what makes the community here in Portland and why everybody is so open and cons- cares about other people. So, really interested to see what your work is about, Kevin. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Beatrice Rose.
Hi, I'm Beatrice Rose from Alpine, Oregon. It's in the Willamette Valley, and I live on an organic farm here with many trees that I love to spend time with and communicate with. And I've really opened up more to that since I started coming to Fairy Congress. And so I'm just so curious, Kevin, about how you are approaching this topic in an academic way. I'm really looking forward to hearing about that.
Thank you. Mary Water.
You need to unmute.
There, thought I was. Hi, I'm on the Olympic Peninsula, Port Angeles, and I grew up. Trees were my refuge. I sat in, I climbed trees and stayed there a lot as a child. And I'm like Penny, where I have some communication, but I've always laughed about. I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and I don't have a lot of communication actually, but a lot of heart connection with trees and animals and whatever, nature. So I'm excited to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Carol B.
Hi, I'm now 3 weeks now in Fairhaven, which is in Bellingham. This is a new community for me again. I've been here a million times, but I'm here again. Anyway, I love trees. I don't really have a, I don't think I have a telepathic experience with them yet, but I've literally sat under them and been healed before. So I'm curious what you have to say. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Gloria.
Hello, I'm in California. I like to talk and dream with spirit, and I'm hoping to deepen my relationship with a new plant.
Yasmin.
Hi, I'm from Bellingham, Washington, and generally I operate from an intuitive level with nature. So I'm excited to hear, intellectually what you come up with because I'd like to be able to communicate more with them.
Thank you, Yasmin. Sky.
Hi, Kevin. I'm in Philomath, Oregon, and trees have been important people in my life ever since I can remember. And I do communicate with them, and they do communicate with me, but on their own terms. And I kind of wait to hear what they have to say. And if they don't have anything to say, then they don't say anything, I have found. But I have received hugs from trees, and that has been amazing and was completely unexpected. And one of the most joyful things to just have an energy of a tree reach out to you and just enfold you in a big hug. And that's only happened to me twice, but I'll never forget it.
Thank you, Sky. Lindsay.
Sorry, I'm on a phone, find the controls. So I am serendipitously, I'm visiting the Redwoods this weekend, and I've had some very interesting, they're very communicative, some very interesting conversations already. Yeah, I feel like, in typical shamanism, people get their power animals. But I feel like I have kind of a set of trees who are my allies more so than animals. Yeah, so I'm really excited to hear what you have to share.
I know you're sharing a lot of trees with us through Mighty Networks, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think I get Gloria. Carol, did I get Carol B? Yeah, okay. Jan, anything you want to add or share?
Well, there's a lot about this topic that fascinates me, but there is that eco-psychology, like when people have a deeper connection with nature, they're happier, they're more vibrant. Like how does that? I want to hear more about that, and how do we do this? Yeah.
Yeah. Have I missed anybody? Anyone not shared yet? No. I think everyone has shared. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, and you all bring a lot of experience already. So I'm hoping that what I offer today will add some richness to that already rich experience. I am so the title of this is what is the title of this? Moments of Encounter: Rediscovering Our Love for This World. And it sounds like most, if not all of you, already have a deep connection with a more than human world. And but what can we do to be even more receptive? And that is a key word that that's going to run throughout this this hour or so exploration is receptivity. So I'll say a little bit about myself. I live in San Francisco right now. I'm at the California Institute of Integral Studies. I've been working on this for a very long time in terms of the PhD, but also I did my master's in 20 years ago and my master's thesis was on exploring an erotic relationship with the world, and I did that with a tree. And I use the word erotic in a very broad sense. I mean, obviously, I wasn't having physical sex with the tree, but I wanted to open myself up to essentially be penetrated by the tree. You know, if the tree wanted, and to have an experience of a tree, if the tree was willing to, like I wanted my body to feel what it feels like to be a tree, in a sense, or I wanted to know in my own body what it felt like to be a tree, to be this particular tree, actually. And so I spent 6 months. I would go an hour a week, and I would do this embodied, connect with my own body, you know, get a sense of my energetic field, my embodied energetic field. And then I would make physical contact with the tree with my hands or my forehead, my chest, or my body, my back as well. And just sort of do my best to keep dropping in to that. And that point of contact became so important to me because it became the anchor for me. Because my mind would often wander. I was often experiencing a lot of fear during this process. I was experiencing a lot of grief and a lot of doubt, a lot of fear that nothing was going to happen, or that what I was experiencing was something I was making up. But it always seemed to me that coming back to my embodied experience and dropping into that sensate embodied experience was what helped me get out of my head and get out of those feelings. And that point of contact was the anchor, was an anchor for me. In fact, there was one time when I was with this tree, it's a Monterey cypress tree in the panhandle of San Francisco. So there are all these people walking around, where I was just totally lost in my head, just like couldn't get out of my head, couldn't drop in. And I had my back, I was leaning against the tree or sitting again with my back against the tree. And I felt like something pushed me, like tapped me in my back. I was like, oh, you know, and I've had more powerful, more profound experiences, but I think that, well, there are three things that I'm hoping. So I did that for 6 months, and then I would spend 2 hours or so journaling about the hour-long experience. And this is something else I want to bring into the room, is that what I was doing was I was reliving the experience in my imagination and then writing it down. And that helped to ground it even more. But I wasn't trying to make sense of it. I wasn't trying to place the experience in a category, a pre-existing category. And I think that even for those of us who have really powerful and profound experiences, and we may have a particular way that we engage with the more than human world, that can sometimes get in the way of having a new experience. And I think that we humans, especially those of us who have grown up in the Western industrial materialistic space, you know, we learn about 5 or 6 senses. And somebody said that that we have more than 50. I don't know, I haven't done any research on that to see where that comes from. But what I will say is that we probably have capacities for connecting with the more than human world much more than we're aware of. And if we continue to move into the more than human world with this fixed idea of how it's supposed to go, or how a tree communicates to us, how a rock communicates to us, how an animal communicates to us, how the environment communicates to us, we may lose out on an experience of encounter that that opens us up in a new way to the more than human world. And so I really want to continue to come back to, as I try to do myself, to this attitude and this place of receptivity. Like, how does the world, or how does this being want to communicate with me? And can I be open enough to receive that? And so one of the ways that I practice this is, well, certainly I continue to drop into my body and embodied awareness. I continue to drop in. And then from that place, I open my field of perception up as much as possible, and just kind of make myself available to the environment. I don't do this always very well. I mean, I get stuck in my shit, excuse my language. I get stuck in my head. I get stuck in my emotions quite a bit. And sometimes the more than human world will come in and I'll just use an example. I was in one of those moments. I think I just couldn't drop in. I'm walking along a path in the park that I live near, and I just felt the way. I just all of a sudden felt the way the wind was blowing again. How my face felt with the wind blowing against it. Very gentle wind. It wasn't a very strong wind, and it woke me up and it brought me in, and so I use moments like that and then I allowed myself to be drawn in. And that's the other invitation, is allow yourself to be drawn in by what captures your attention, and do it respectfully. Respect and reciprocity are really important. So for instance, if I love watching bees interact with flowers, and I'm often drawn into when I see that happening. I'm often drawn in, but I don't go in and I don't disturb what's happening, but I allow my attention and my gratitude to be drawn in with gratitude. So my catchphrase, I guess, would be, be open to moments of encounter. So what I'm hoping we can do in the short time today, this is kind of the overarching theme or themes, is to allow our experiences with the more than human world to be as they are. So to be as they are, which I hope will enable us to live in a deeply embodied and sensual way with the more than human world, because I think that that sensuality, that's how the world communicates with us, is sensually, at least from my perspective. Our imaginations are a part of that. Like I said, but first, I think, at least it's interesting to explore this in this way. Like what would it be like to be this embodied being amongst other embodied beings? And not thinking about it, not having an idea about it, but actually living in our bodies, living through our bodies, and allowing the world to interact with us in an embodied way. That doesn't mean that it's not spiritual. It doesn't mean that, and quite frankly, I don't think that that's a duality that we've been given that I think is wrong. I think we live on a continuum, and we can exist along that continuum. At different points, we might be, like you have a pain in your back, you might be either really in your body, or you might be trying to get away from your body. But there may be other times when you feel comfortable in your body and you're just able to settle in. But, and I'm sure many of you have had this experience, but when we enter into our bodies, the world opens up to us. At least that's been my experience. Like when I've delved deep into the unfoldment of my body from moment to moment, the way that my body feels energetically as well as physically, losing my thought. The deeper I go into that, the more the world opens up to me. And I say that the internal world, the internal experience of our embodied selves is as vast as the universe, quote unquote, outside of us. That's at least at least in my experience, it just keeps opening up. It just keeps opening up. And again, I don't live in this space most of the time, actually. So yeah, being embodied and engaging with the world at all levels of our being, with as many levels of our being as possible available in a moment. My other hope is that this gives us opportunities to expand our capacity to commune with the more than human world. Like I said, what senses might come online that we don't even know that we have. Goethe was, you may have heard of him as a literature guy, but he was also a very scientific man, but he was living around the time of Newton or soon after Newton, and he had a really big problem with this Newtonian perspective of the world as this mechanistic, and objectivity. And separating ourselves and getting to know the world by taking it apart. He said you can't know the essence of a being by taking it apart or taking it out of its environment. And you can't know something without you being involved in relationship with it. So, I have this house plant, and I could get to know this plant. I get to know this plant by using my senses, the 5 senses that we are told about, or the 6 senses. But I could look at one leaf, not taking it not ripping it off off the rest of the plant, but I could really examine this one leaf and using all my senses and get to know it through my senses with as much detail as possible so that I could actually put this plant aside, not look at it and draw it, and draw it with detail and then look at the plant and say, oh yeah, I've internalized this plant inside of me. I've taken in this plant. And then what Goethe said is that if you do this and you do this, you do this within the context of this whole plant, and there are some new leaves growing here. There's some leaves growing. So you look at the cycle of the plant as well, like how it's growing and how it relates to how this one leaf might relate to the rest of the plant, and how the roots and everything, and then you do that enough so that you've taken it into yourself and you've internalized the experience of this plant in its wholeness. And then he says, what happens is, let's back up here. What happens is that imaginal piece is really important, that taking it in and recreating it within ourselves. And he said what can happen is that plant, this particular plant will create or unfold a new organ of perception within me that helps me to know how to relate to that plant. So that plant will teach me, this is how you relate to me. This is how I communicate with you. And it opens up a new organ of perception. And it might be particular to this plant or this, stone, this crystal, or a particular tree. And so I love that. I mean, I'm not a Goethe expert, so there may be some things that haven't accurately shared, but I think I have the essence of it. And yes, but what I love about that is that we get to we get to move into the world with holding the possibility that our ways of perceiving and communicating with the more than human world can grow and expand beyond what we're even told is possible. And I know for many of you who have communications with fairies or she, you already know this. But what would it be like to actually walk in the material world, which is not just material, and continue to cultivate these capacities for communion and communication in ever and ever broader and greater ways. And then the last thing, so allowing being open enough and receptive, and well, this is the last thing, being receptive to receive what's showing up in our environment, or who or what wants to communicate with us or wants to commune with us, or just maybe they don't want to commune with us, but they just want us. There's just this just being receptive to what shows up in our awareness, what shows up in our environment, what draws us in, and allow ourselves to be drawn in, and do it with curiosity, with respect, with an attitude of gratitude, and yeah, and bring your imaginations with you. And again, the imagination isn't to try to make something up or try to make sense of it, but it's just to bring it more fully into your body, into your embodied selves. And again, the body and the material world is so much more, has so much depth and so much, it's just the vastness of the material is profound. It's not just this. And for the tree, it's not just, the trunk, the bark of the trunk. Like, it is possible, and I'm sure many of you have experienced, it is possible to feel the energy, but really, I wanted to say to penetrate into, but I think we humans, especially if you're a cisgendered male, but all of us in the West, we know how to penetrate. We know how to penetrate. What would it be like to open ourselves up to be penetrated? And of course, you want to do this safely. You want to have healthy boundaries, but also to open ourselves up to the world and allow the world into our embodied experience. So that's my inquiry. That's what I bring. Because I think, the world has had enough of us humans, penetrating it and taking from it, So what's it like to have an attitude of like, I'm here to receive what it is that you may want to share with me. If you want to, if you don't, that's fine, And then what happens to our experience with ourselves and with the world if we do that? Does anyone have any questions or, yeah, Annie?
This is so delightful. I want to thank you, since we live in a paradigm where humans are always at the top of the pyramid and everything is. So I love how you say more than human. Love that. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts? You're muted, Jeff.
Okay. in light of you said a minute ago how it may not want to communicate with you. Is that because it has experienced who we are as Western men, cisgendered, that we are rough and not receptive, that we're closed, or is it so? In other words, is there a sense on the part of a, a tree or a plant that picks up vibes from who we are and yeah, not just as individuals, but as part of corporate mankind, humanity.
I don't know. I mean, the reason why I say I don't know is because my sense is that, um, and others who have explored this with me, um, they have their own, they have their own lives. They're not necessarily, it's not like they're waiting for us to grow up and show up. Um, um, Sometimes they're just doing their own thing, and it's like, don't bother me right now. I'm busy. I'm busy photosynthesizing, or whatever, you know. So yeah, I think that once again, the attitude that we have been raised with, generally speaking, of humans being at the top, being the pinnacle, being the all important beings on this planet, it's like it's just not true. It's just, so I think sometimes let's say a plant is like, yeah, you know what, I'm busy doing my life. Come back later or don't come back at all. Like we're not a good fit. When I started so there could be a lot of different reasons. When I started my master's process, with the Monterey cypress tree, I was in a period of dating. So I would, what I call dating, I would go to these different trees and just kind of spend time with them and see how it felt like. And there are three distinct trees that I remember. One tree I just couldn't get comfortable with, like physically could not get comfortable. I would sit, I would stand, and I just was like, and I just took that to mean, okay, it's probably not the right tree to work with. Not the tree is not receptive to me, to doing this with me. I don't know why, but I'm just going to respect that. There was another tree that felt welcoming in that moment, but I really got a sense of like, oh yeah, she's not, yeah. She's like, glad you're here, but I don't want to do that. I don't know. How do I know that? It's just how it felt in my body. And then the tree that I ended up spending time with I kept feeling drawn to and kept feeling attracted to, actually, in a really powerful way. So we need to also trust, we need to know ourselves, our embodied experiences enough to be able to trust what our bodies are telling us about the encounter. Yeah. Yasmin.
I wanted to thank you for articulating what it is that my experience when I'm out there with trees, plants, or whatever, because my experience is they're like people, some are grumpy, some are happy, some are come over here, check me out. I have that kind of an experience, and I've never been able to put that in words. It's just my experience. So I'm so grateful that you're talking about this because it's validating my experience. And thus, it's making me on a conscious level versus awareness level to be curious and go, oh, now I can approach them with this intellectual understanding of my experience. So I'm having this integration of emerging of that experience with the mind, with my intellect, I should say. My mind is already out there exploring. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to hear that, Yasmin. I mean, I do think that our actions, our actions do have consequences, and our attitude too. But it's not the whole determining thing. I mean, so if we're walking in, if we're moving in the world with a sense of open receptivity and curiosity and willingness, I mean, you might even move into a space, a particular place, and spend some time there, and just say, "Hey, my name." Say it out loud. My name is Kevin Filocamo, and I'm just going to spend 30 minutes or 40 minutes here with you, and I'm just open. If anyone wants to communicate me, if anyone wants to share something with me, I'm open and I'm available. And then just sit there and be quiet and just sort of feel. Again, I tend to find that sometimes my sight is the way in, but we're also in the West so attuned to our sight that, again, it can be a limiting thing, but we don't want to exclude it. We want to create space so that more of our senses can be involved. So there may be times when you close your eyes. You might close your eyes for 10 minutes and just feel what it feels like what other senses are coming alive. Maybe you hear things more, or maybe you smell something, or maybe you feel something on your skin, or maybe something else that, may show up. Maybe something in your imagination may show up, but check that out. Is that an idea that's my brain is generating because it's uncomfortable with being this open? Or is this something coming from the environment, coming from the beings that are there, that's coming through me? And then what do I do with that? And I think it's always about dropping back into your embodied sensations. I think it's always, for me anyway, that's the anchor. So just keep coming back to your body and what's happening in your body. What are you noticing? What's coming alive inside of you? And then let it go. Don't get stuck on an idea or an image or an experience. Continue to drop in and say, okay, what next? I'm present again. I'm here again, and as fully embodied as I can be. I'm here and I'm present. What next? Or maybe don't even ask that, but just say, I'm open. Just return to, I'm open and receptive. Annie.
I was at a 4-day event on Vashon Island once, and there were beautiful gardens and orchards. And one day, one of the trees called me over and told me this problem that he had. And the farmer whose land it was ran over to the tree and took care of the problem. And he was someone who didn't communicate with other beings, but the being, the trees and the other beings on the land were easily able to communicate with him, even though he had no conscious of it.
Right. Yeah. So, the beings have their own life. They have their own sense of purpose. They have their own, desires, in whatever form that takes for these different beings. And like somebody said, they have their own personalities. And, no might also mean not right now, come back later. I think one of the really important things, if I haven't said it already, is to know what it feels like and to trust our bodies. When we're with another human, we can feel like, somebody may be saying something, but in your body, you're like, I'm not feeling that. Yes. I'm feeling a little bit. So, what's that about? Is that me? Is that the person? Are they not sharing something with me that they need to share? So knowing what yes and no and maybe or not right now feels like in our bodies, or what a hug feels like, or what a welcome, we want you here, or, it feels uncomfortable, or it feels uncomfortable, but yeah, I'm willing to try, or it feels uncomfortable and no, I really don't want to do it. Trusting our bodies, trusting ourselves, our bodies enough to say, and knowing ourselves enough to know, okay, that's what a no feels like, or that's what a yes feels like, or that's what a maybe feels like, or that's what I'm upset feels like, when I'm with another person. So maybe that's how my body is registering this. in this energy with this other being. Amita, you're muted.
Of course I am. You're doing a great job. This is fantastic. And I love this idea of really checking in to the senses and communication within the body. One of the things that has happened with me most of my life is that translates for me inside as a language. And so often trees will tell me stories.
Mm,
Really, really fascinating, at least to them, incredibly fascinating. And it is fascinating the first 10 times a tree tells you about their friend, the owl. And after about
mm,
the 15th tree that's told you that, you're like, yeah, yeah, I know the story. Because there aren't very many variations. They're all quite beautiful. Um, but
mm,
you know, a lot of times when I'm walking through the forest, a tree will grab my attention because it needs something. And sometimes it's
mm,
like, hey. And other times it's a literal branch that has no way to reach me, suddenly reaches out and touches me. Um, and I've never, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, I have a deep connection with trees, and I love this idea of the intimacy of it. I guess I've never really thought of it like that. These are just, they're not humans, obviously, but they're just my friends. And I haven't really thought of it that way. And that's really a beautiful thing because it's what it is. It is absolutely a sacred and intimate communication every time it happens. And usually when I don't vibe with a tree, we'll say it that way, it's because they either are wary of humans or they're just doing their own thing. They have personalities, like you said, like, sometimes you just have a shy tree. Sometimes you just have a tree who doesn't really like to communicate, whatever it may be. And I think it's just brilliant how you've come to this, and I'm a fan. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm a fan. Thank you, Kevin.
thank you. I really appreciate that. And Amita, you bring up something else and I do want to get to an experiential, so I'm sort of keeping track of time here. Um, so maybe after Gloria, we'll move into that. But I want to say that, we may experience these things differently. Amita talks about, the trees sharing stories with her and how she receives those stories may be different for her than it is for me. Like I think that one of the key elements for me, which I keep bringing up, is the kinesthetic. Like there is, and I think that that's true for everyone, but and that's my bias. But I also think that there are many ways that we can receive communication or communion with another being. And I do think the body is key, but that, for some other people, how that shows up in our body. Some people, I did this process for 16 weeks with 8 people as part of my dissertation, where they all went to a particular tree that was in their area. And they would always, and one of the questions I asked them at the end is like, well, how did you know that it was the tree communicating with you? How did you know? Not in an intellectual way, but like, how did that show up for you? And some people it was audio, it was sound. Some people it was touch. Some people it was sight. But usually sight was something else. So each one of us is going to have our own particular strengths and weaknesses in terms of, or how our attunement happens with the more than human world. And, again, that is part of what we learn and cultivate as we continue to to make ourselves available to this kind of exploration or these kind of relationships, and learning more and more about how it works for us. And maybe it's different for different beings, or even different species, or even different trees or plants or rocks or animals. They may show up in different ways within our own experience. Gloria, hi.
Thank you so much. I resonate with so much, and there's so much to talk about.
I know.
Um, let's see. So one thing I'd like to share is that how much of this conversation for me is relational, relationship to self, relationship to body, relationship to all the other people. And let's see. Plant dietas. Have you done them? So that reminds me of your conversation reminds me of that because it's um, maybe a plant has volunteered be um, to be ingested, and so maybe they've taken the whole life cycle of a plant, like a dandelion, and that gets ingested into
Yeah.
our bodies and experienced. So that reminded me of that. Another thing about receptivity and the how there may be as many as 50 players, and I've heard there's actually more, especially with plants. Plants have so many ways of perceptions, and in terms of our increasing our capacity to receive, um, uh, I've seen different ways to increase that. Maybe, like, say, in the shamanic tradition, you ask to merge, or in some of my experience, I found sometimes when I couldn't understand um, communication, I could ask for help. And sometimes I had to ask for, like a third party translator. Be like, please, could someone help interpret so that so that I could understand in a way that I can receive, and and so that help is available, like, so that was a key learning for me, that if there is something that's that I can't register, I can maybe become to invite a third party.
Who would that
And
third party be again, Gloria?
well, so it depends. It
Yeah.
depends on the situation. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so in my context, it's a psychopomp work, and so I'm in conversation with a spirit, and maybe yeah. So asking for help in that case, it really just depends who is who what is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I
and go ahead.
Well, I love that the dieta. Thank you for bringing that in. I've not done that specifically myself, although I could say, I guess. I mean, I haven't done that process of ingesting in the way that dietas, as far as I understand them, are done. But I did spend 6 months, with this particular Monterey cypress tree. So in a way, I was digesting experiences, and this tree would offer different experiences. I so I had, one of the most profound experiences with this tree was I was sitting with my back leaning against this tree, and all of a sudden it felt as if I was being penetrated through my back by this tree. So I could feel energetically, and it felt like my body was becoming wood. And it was coming through my back. And the reason why I say, when I ask, how do I know it was wood? Because that's how it felt when I felt the wood of the tree. It's like, oh, this feels like wood. And I was, I was I was concerned. I was like, what's happening? But I just kept checking in with myself. It's like, am I losing myself? Am I losing? And no, I was still present. I was still aware of myself, but I was also becoming wood. I was becoming wood. And the way that I hold that is that the tree, because of this relationship that the tree and I were cultivating, the tree was like, I want you to get to know me. Here's what it feels like to be wood. another time I might have been captivated by how tall this tree was and how big the canopy of the tree was. And I'd spend my time just staring up at the tree, up at the canopy. And another time I would be, sitting and I would notice that the roots of the tree would go far beyond my 5'8" body into I'm like, oh my God, the roots are part of the ground of the panhandle. So, and I would just take, another experience would be, I'd just be fascinated by the contour of the bark of this tree. And I'd just be like in there, again, using my sight, but also my touch. And then I would notice the little animals that, the insects that would be crawling around in there. And I'd just be captivated by that. And I took all of that to be, this is like this particular tree I'm going to share now, it's like you're having dinner with somebody. Like, I'm going to share with you this part of my life or my experience. Now I'm going to share with you this part of my life. And I felt like these were moments of encounter, or moments where the tree is like, this is how I'm communicating to you different aspects of my existence. And how I knew that was that I just became captivated by it. I just became captivated by it. And so I'm just holding it as, okay, that's the one way that the tree is communicating with me. It's like, I'm going to draw you into this aspect of my physical being and let you in on a little bit more about who I am and how I exist and what it feels like to be me. But that can happen in so many different ways. It can happen in many different ways. Okay. Thank you all. I would love to continue this conversation, but I do want to bring us in and I don't know if we have enough time to really I was going to have you bring a stone or a plant to be with, and maybe if you don't have something available, maybe have it nearby, and we'll see how the time goes. But what I want to do is invite us into a space where we get to explore what it feels like to be in an embodied attitude of receptivity. And so that's what I'd like to lead you in. Please take care of yourself. Go only as far as you want to go, and if you don't feel comfortable doing this right now, that's fine. And continue to check in with yourself. Is this okay? Is this far enough? Do I want to go farther? And honor your own limitations. Does anyone have any questions about this before we get started? I know I haven't shared a lot about it, but I basically we're dropping in. We're going to drop in. Okay. So if you have a crystal or a stone or a house plant, something that's easily accessible where you are, just have it nearby. Okay. And when you're ready, if you want, close your eyes or soften your gaze. If you want to turn off your video, you can do that. But you want to bring your attention back to yourself. And just take a few deep breaths that will help you to center, to ground. And if it's available to you, feel your feet on the floor. And feel the way your body is supported by the seat, the chair that you may be sitting on. And to whatever degree is available to you, allow yourself to sink into that support. Allow yourself to feel how it feels for your body to be contacting the chair or the couch that you're sitting on. And again, to whatever degree it feels comfortable and available to you, see if you can allow yourself to sink into that space, that contact with the chair and the floor or the earth. See if you can allow your energy to sink even more into that contact and explore allowing that contact to be an anchor for you. Sometimes it seems really important that we anchor ourselves before we open ourselves. And as you feel more anchored and more present with yourself, just begin to invite yourself to, from this anchored place. The anchor is also connection, connecting with the earth, connecting with our own wisdom, embodied wisdom, connecting with our breath. Just feel how you're feeling energetically and physically from the inside out. Like, just see if you can open your awareness internally with yourself. You're not extending your energy anywhere else. You're extending it inside, within your energy and your attention, your awareness, and just sort of say, I'm here to yourself. I'm here. What does that feel like? How does your sense of self, your embodied sense of self, shift or change when you say that, when you offer this attention and say, I'm here to yourself? What happens within you when you do that? If you need to reconnect with your feet on the ground, your body seated in the chair, reconnect with that connection, with that sensation of connection, of contact. That's your anchor. Continue to come back to that if you need to. And as you feel comfortable doing so, with your attention still anchored in yourself, begin to slowly and gently allow your awareness to begin to expand a little bit so that it's filling the contours of your physical body. So you're moving toward the physical, your own physicality, where your own physicality begins to meet the physicality and the energy of the space around you. You haven't moved into that space yet. You're still anchored within yourself. You're still contained within your own physicality, but you're moving your awareness and energy to the periphery, to the edges of that space, of your own space. in relation to the space around you. So it's like you're beginning to peek out from within you. You're beginning to peek out and energetically just kind of scan the world, the space that you're in, without opening into that space yet. You're feeling the distinctness of your being in relation to the space around you, the place that you're in. You're allowing that distinctness to be really clear and defined for this moment. Now just allow, to whatever degree it feels comfortable and safe to do, allow that sense of boundariness, energetic boundary, to open a little bit, to open to the space around you. It's almost like there's an aperture of your being that you're just beginning to open, or the unfolding of a rose. As a rose or another flower opens itself to the environment, just feel your energy begin to open to the environment around you, to the space around you. Gently, like a flower unfolding its petals. So you're beginning to take in the space around you more fully. And continue to feel anchored in your own self. You don't want to leave. You don't want to leave yourself to do this. You want to stay anchored in your own embodied experience, but opening up to receive. And open up only as much as you feel comfortable doing so. You don't have to open up all the way. But just explore what feels good, what feels comfortable, what feels right now. And now as you're exploring this opening, you may want to ask the plant or ask the crystal or stone or whoever you're working with, is it okay if I engage with you in this way for a few minutes? It's not going to be very long. I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. Is that okay? And see what it feels like. What is the response that you get from this other being? And if you sense a yes or a permission of some kind, hold this being, if you can, in your hand, this crystal, this stone, this plant. And again, just extending your energy, just offering yourself. You don't want to penetrate this with your energy. You want to say, I am available. Is there something you want to share with me right now? I'm open and available. And then just, for now, probably with your eyes closed would be the best way. Just feel what you feel. Experience what's there for you to experience with this other being. And if nothing happens, that's okay. Let it be what it is, without trying to make sense of it. And we'll just sit here for about 5 minutes, and then I'll guide us back out. Just sit with this plant or this crystal stone and just continue to offer yourself to this being for 5 more minutes. Remembering to stay anchored in yourself while you're doing this. So you're not leaving yourself to do this, you're staying anchored in yourself, but you're opening yourself to this other being, to be receptive to this other being. Coming back to your feet, coming back to the way your body's sitting in the chair, and opening, staying rooted and opening at the same time. And just allowing whatever happens to happen. And I'm going to be quiet now for a few minutes. You're going to begin to come out of this experience. So if your mind has wandered or when you gather your energy back to yourself, Feeling your feet on the floor, feeling your body in the chair. As you gather your energy back to yourself, give gratitude, express gratitude to this being with whom you shared some space and time. Thank them, and again begin to pull your energy back into yourself. Gather your energy back to yourself. And as you do that, as you feel more and more fully embodied within yourself from the inside out, you may want to offer an energetic or a physical bow to this being of gratitude. Thank them again. And then place that being to the side. Come back to yourself again. Just keep coming back to yourself, bringing yourself back into that contact with the chair or the couch, with the floor or the earth. Drawing your energy back, drawing your energy in, and allowing that energy to settle. And as you feel ready, open your eyes and return to the Zoom room. Take your time. Would anyone like to share what that was like, or how that was for them, what they experienced, or it was a short period of time, but any thoughts or shares or questions? Beatrice, Rose.
So I had just bought this, I think it's a black lace elderberry. I lost the tag, and I was going to plant it today, but I thought I would commune with it before that. So it's sitting here in its little pot. And I, boy, I really got such a strong just sense of connection. And at one point, I opened my eyes and I saw it's just got these very uh, lacy little things here, so delicate, and they were shimmering with my heartbeat. But I was touching it, and I thought, okay, it's feeling my heartbeat. But what if I take my hands away? And so I did, and it kept doing it, and then I kept moving it farther away because I thought I must be influenced in some way. But it was still like shimmering with my heartbeat. So I just felt it was really an amazing experience.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thank you. Yasmin.
So I chose this rock. I don't know where I found it. I gather rocks, and it was on this drum. And as I was holding it, it was so cold. I mean, I've never felt cold like that. And it was so heavy. And then I just was with it, and it had withdrawn inside. It was not happy. It was picking up all the, whatever it was. And so I started just stroking it gently like that. And it makes me, tears are kind of coming up a little bit. And so what it wants to be wants to be outside with its other rocks. And I just created a kind of a small little pond thing out of this plastic thing with other rocks and plants. And that's where it wants to go. It doesn't want to be inside. And once I figured that out, it got light. It's no longer heavy. It goes, oh God, thank you. So yeah, that was interesting.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yasmin. Amita.
I hit the unmute button that time. So, I'm traveling and didn't, and wasn't made aware that I was supposed to bring something with me until we were already here. And the RV is parked in Maryland, so there's no way I can get anything. But I do have this backpack. It's my traveling backpack when I fly, and I probably have 10 or 15 different rocks in there just because hi, I'm me. And so I had this one with me, which is this wonderful citrine that I've had for a very long time. And I remember when I got it, I knew it was for something important. I had no idea what, but I knew it was for something important. And so when we started, I was still holding on to it because, I had just grabbed it. And I got this shiver up my spine, and then I just started giggling. And I realized they weren't my giggles, they were the rock's giggles. But I was the conduit for that expression. And so I was like, oh wait, I'm not supposed to be holding you yet. I'm supposed to be checking into me. So I set her down. And when I picked her back up, the message that I got was, I love traveling with you, but you forgot about me. You forgot I'm meant to be something important.
Mm.
And this was a gift from a friend. I didn't even pick it out myself. But, and again, it all came in words, but there were these sensations flooding through my body. The best thing I can explain is my wings got really heavy. And I felt this almost weight around my waist. Like I was being held down. And at first I was like, is that the anchor that I'm using? And it's like, no, that's not the anchor. There is a weight around your waist. And she was saying, we have important work to do. And while I actually belong on your staff, which I have a redwood staff that apparently she belongs on top of. Right now, she wants to hang out with me and she wants to be with me because she's supposed to help me brighten those places where I'm still being held down.
Wow.
So that my wings can function in a more supportive way, apparently.
Mm.
So that was really powerful. Thank you.
So can I ask you a question?
Of course.
When you said, I'm just curious, because when you said that you felt giggles,
Yeah.
but you knew that you realized they weren't your giggles.
Yeah.
How did you know that? How did you discern that? Can you say like what?
Oh, that's um, so I have spent a lot of time over the past 2 decades or so getting to understand my own energy. I'm an empath and
Mhm.
I'm a huge conduit. And so I've had to spend a lot of time understanding my own energy to be able to understand what belongs to me and what doesn't. And so now it's just kind of a second nature to me. Wait, this doesn't feel like me. And then once I realize that, I'm generally able to figure out where it's coming from.
Great, great. Thank you, Amita.
Thank you.
Sky.
I also had a crystal nearby that I picked up. And I also had a glass of water sitting on the table next to me. And as we started to tune in, I felt that the water was what wanted to connect instead of the crystal. So I was holding my glass of water when we connected, and I just kind of felt into her, and I felt the coolness, that kind of cool smoothness of the water, and just sitting open. And I heard, "You haven't blessed me yet today." So I said, "You're right. I have not." And so I said, "I will bless you now." And I blessed her now and just said, "Bless you, water. Thank you so much for giving me and the whole world life." It's usually my usual blessing for her, for when I remember to to bless my water when I drink it. And I felt this a blossoming in the water. And it was sort of a felt sense feeling of feeling the water expand, but also in my mind's eye, I saw like little blooms, like fractal crystalline blooms. So that was a very wonderful experience that I have not tried before, connecting, well, not connecting, but just being open to what water, this wonderful glass of water, had to say.
That's so beautiful. I'm so glad. I mean, I love the variety of experiences that people bring because again, it even it opens up my, like, oh, there's so much more that we could do this with. There's so many more ways that we can engage in the world in this way.
Yeah,
This
thank you
is,
so much for that opportunity.
thank you, Sky. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Gloria.
So one of my ways in, one of my main sort of parts of my intuitive signatures is dream work, so dreaming with. And so earlier I had dreamt of a plant that wanted to me to tend to. So it turned out to be Canip, Perilla frutescens, and I, in conversation, it was very sad. It was full of grief, and so it turned out. So I did help do some transition work with them, and since then, I've been growing. So I have these little seedlings, and so I hadn't checked in with them since then. And so today, checking in with them, such serenity.
Mm.
Hmm.
Thank you, Gloria. Anyone else? Any? Yeah.
I have a power tree that I work with that's in my backyard that I face whenever I do these Zooms. And so I decided to use that, and it was quite interesting. I'm doing a lot of work with Lorian about having your own sovereignty and being clear about your own presence. And the way you led it was different enough, but similar enough that I was able to really feel my own space. And I kept wanting to jump to, usually I merge with this tree. So I kept trying to jump to merge with the tree. No, back off. Just stay here, stay here, stay here. So it was very different. And I got to ask it when I eventually connected. Are you okay with me jump merging, and are you okay with me doing this work with you? And I got a yes, but there was also a sense of we could go deeper. And so then when there was more silence, something happened. I don't have words for it, but it was a definitely a somatic something. So I'm hoping it deepens this when I merge with it. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. It may be helpful, Penny, in terms of, you said you don't have words for it, but I wonder if there's, if you go back into that experience with your imagination and try to either write using descriptive words, using sensual words, using, not trying to encapsulate it into an idea, but just describe it like a poet would, or draw, or find some way to bring a different type of awareness into that experience and see if maybe there's more clarity or more depth that actually happens. So if you feel like that might be useful, try that, see what happens, see what becomes clearer. It may not, but that the process itself will be valuable. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm gonna dive in here. I'm always amazed at just how much joy I get. I kind of joke with people I'm this ecstatic animist, but when I talk to, like I was working with a crystal that I've had it's been around a long time, and it talks about itself being a recorder. But I was trying to, it's like, well, what does that mean? How do we work together? But at the root of it, what I'm amazed is the sheer joy. When I talk to trees or sense into different parts of nature, there's so much joy, so much ecstaticness. I mean, it is erotic and it is joyful. It's ecstatic. I just wanted to share that.
I'm going to share this, and I don't know where this is going, but it's just coming up. So, it doesn't surprise me, Jan, that that's what you experience, because that's often what you experience. And it makes me wonder, if we are also conduits for particular experiences. It's just I don't know, but it's a question that I have, because Jan, oftentimes when we've talked, you've had fierce encounters as well, but you often have this experience of joy, and maybe we're meant to bring in different aspects of experience, in partnership with the more than human world, that are gifts to the whole, because we don't contain the whole. We are, I don't know, maybe we do, but we express it in particular ways. We have particular flavors that we bring into, and so anyway, that's just what came up for me as you shared that. I don't know if you have a response to that, Jan, and then I'll go to Wendy, and then we'll wrap up.
Well, we're part of nature. I mean, nature is so diverse. Of course, we bring in our own flavor. And then if you meet, like if I have a flavor of ecstatic joy and I'm interacting with the tree is going to kind of blossom up, or, the animals are going to kind of perk up, like, wow, you're paying it. Wow. Like, this is like, wow, my God, like a lot of tail wagging going on. So I think we do. I mean, we are conduits. I have to kind of own that. Like I have an effect on nature, on a tree will have an effect on me.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's important. That second part is really important, is that, and I think that, again, we generally speaking in the West, we tend to have this, we're the ones having the impact. But part of this receptivity is allowing us to be impacted by, the more than human world. And that open receptivity to, I use the words to be penetrated, and that's very provocative, but, to be impacted is another way of saying it. I want to know who you are. I want to know what your experience is. And, I'm open to whatever you want to share, however you want to share that with me, and as long as there's, and again, I think it's really important that the anchoring piece is really important, because I do think that, especially for those of us who are more sensitive, we have this habit, or we can have this habit of leaving ourselves. Like we just throw ourselves out into the world, and it's really easy to get lost or to get overwhelmed. You can still get overwhelmed being anchored, but there's also this possibility, and we do that in human relationships too, where it's like, I'm just going to give myself to you, but the practice of staying anchored in ourselves, recognizing that anchoring is not limiting. Anchoring actually allows us to open up more. It allows, because we're anchored. It's like a tree. If a tree isn't rooted, it's going to fall over. And if we're not rooted, we're going to get overwhelmed. And we have less of a chance of getting overwhelmed if we continue to anchor ourselves. I think even, I mean, I'm not a shamanic practitioner per se, but even in those kind of experiences, explore that, experiment with remaining anchored as you enter into a shamanic journey. Can you fly and be anchored at the same time? I think that's possible, and I think it's important. Maybe ask the shamanic journey, how do I stay, what does it mean to be anchored in myself and open to experience the vastness that shows up in this space? What does that feel like? What does it look like? How would I do that? I think at the very least, it's an important place to start and see where that takes us. Wendy. Sorry.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thought-provoking. So as often happens when these workshops occur, as soon as I slow down enough to be ready for it, the dog says, "Take me out." And so I was out walking, and before I realized that we needed a stone, a little pebble wanted to be picked up. And so it just kind of lit up, is how I know that. It suddenly looks like there's a little spotlight. And so I picked it up thinking, what's this about? And then you started talking about connecting with the stone or crystal or whatever it was that we were going to connect with. And I got that would happen, but not yet. And then I was walking past a pineapple guava plant, and I realized somebody had pruned it with a chainsaw, which seems horribly common in this area. And so I kind of greeted it. I always admire it when I'm walking by, and I checked in, how are you? What's up? And I got that it was kind of used to it. This happens a few times a year. All is good, except and then the next thing that lit up I wasn't so interested in as the stone. It was bags of dog poo that people had thrown under the plant, like plastic bags were just piled up. So I wasn't as happy to deal with that as I was the stone, but I put all those into my little bag that I carry with me to dispose of, and felt kind of a sense of relief after that had occurred. And then the stone wanted to be connected with, and it was small, like an inch stone. But as soon as I checked in with it, I got this sense of connection with other stones in other places. Like there was a web of all the different stones, and it looked like just a small piece of river rock, but it felt like it was just part of this big web. And as I was walking, it felt like it was also part of different beings that were tending the stones. It was really quite fantastic. So I just wanted to thank you for this beautiful exercise.
Wow, that sounds so rich, Wendy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I know we're past time, and I know that Fairy Congress has another event coming up. I just want to thank you all. Yeah, go ahead.
No, okay, so I just wanted to tell people that at noon we are doing shamanic exercises to get clarity on what's the next step in our Fairy Congress evolution. Since this year we're not having an in-person gathering. What is it that the helping spirits want us to know? What's next in our path? So that starts at noon. It's a separate Zoom login. So if you got the newsletter, the Zoom is there anybody who wants to participate that doesn't have the Zoom key, Zoom password? Okay. And then so next month, we're coming up on summer solstice, and we're going to be working with Pan. Pan has always been associated with Midsummer's Eve. There's a connection. So we're actually next month, it's going to be on Midsummer's Eve. So we're going to be talking to Pan.
Mm.
I will have this recorded and up on the event page, and I'll be sending it to folks. Thank you so much. Kevin, any parting words?
No, just incredible gratitude to you all for showing up and for trusting me and for participating. And yeah, it was a real pleasure getting to share this space with you in time. Yeah, much gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kevin.
Wonderful workshop. Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you.
Thank you.
Really, really
you.
helpful.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Be
Wonderful
well.
to meet you.
Yeah.
Lovely to meet you too. Yeah.
And if you anchor to the galactic center, it's easier to fly or levitate.